This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
Good evening, everyone. Police have charged 3 bouncers with assault over a number of separate incidents at Hobart venues. Investigators say crowd controllers can use reasonable force to defend themselves, but in these cases it doesn't justify their actions. Louise Hedger has more.
Police today confirmed they've charged 3 bouncers over alleged assaults at late-night venues here at Salamanca and the Hobart CBD. Investigators say some of the victims were slapped, kicked and hit in the throat during separate incidents in early September. They've reviewed footage which police say appears to show patrons who were intoxicated but non-combative.
There's no justification for excessive force allegedly used by these crowd controllers, especially when their victims were non-combative.
Collectively, the men, all from Hobart, have been charged with 10 counts of assault. The union representing security workers says there needs to be mandatory and up-to-date training for security staff. And there's confusion within the industry about what is considered a reasonable use of force.
And I think that if there's a general application of the concept of reasonable force, everybody would benefit.
The venues involved aren't being identified by police, but they say the crowd controllers have either resigned or had their employment terminated. They will appear in Hobart Magistrates Court at a later date.
The state government says it's not concerned about recent Reachtel polling showing Labor leader Rebecca White as preferred premier, despite 52.1% of those asked in Will Hodgman's seat of Franklin turning away from the Liberal leader.
Labor leader Rebecca White all smiles with the recent polling result.
There's a long way to go though. The Labor Party is still the underdog here. We still don't know what date the election will be.
The poll was conducted on September 4 by the Australia Institute with 726 voters in Franklin. But despite Ms White's personal popularity, 40.9% of those asked said if an election was to be held tomorrow, Liberal would be their first preference vote. That's 10% more than Labor.
I've got no doubt at all that the Tasmanian people recognise in Will Hodgman and the government a very strong leader and strong government advocating the best interests of Tasmania.
Labor today announcing a pre-election commitment to installing a centre holding bay on the Bass Highway outside the Christmas Hills Raspberry Farm. Susan and Dave live just next door and are desperate for a road upgrade before another life is lost.
Yeah, it frightens the hell out of me sometimes, and I'd just like to see something done.
You just hear it all day and truck horns going and the squeal of brakes and you just wait for the bang.
The section is notorious for crashes and near misses, some more serious than others. They're calling for a lower speed limit to be enforced and increased visibility for cars down the hill.
I think I measured it out. I think at the moment we've got about 150 metres of sight line. And you imagine a vehicle doing 110 k's, how fast you've got, how many seconds you've got to react.
The government has committed to increasing its long-term investment in public infrastructure, including roads, by 20% over 4 years, and are aware of the problem spot.
They took a couple of trees out and they did try to take some off the front of the bank outside our home to make it better. But then they hit rocks, so it's a bigger problem than what they thought.
The intersection has also been listed by the RACT on its wish list of stretches most in need of an upgrade. Jessica Moran, Southern Cross News.
The state government's controversial legislation to pave the way for a cable car on Mount Wellington will be introduced when Parliament resumes tomorrow. Environment Minister Matthew Groom says the bill has changed slightly since it was drafted, but the substance remains the same.
This is a very important piece of legislation which is designed to remove a barrier to sensible development of a cable car.
This legislation obviously provides another opportunity to have a debate about the cable car. On the face of it, I don't think there's anything in the legislation that's of particular concern to the Labor Party, and we look forward to that debate.
The Greens say they will oppose the bill, and debate over whether the government should take over Taswater will also resume this week. The Legislative Council has formed a committee to conduct an inquiry into the proposed takeover. It will hold public hearings in Launceston on Wednesday and Hobart on Friday. A man charged with a major drug trafficking offence has had his case adjourned. 41-year-old David William Michelson appeared in the Hobart Magistrates Court charged with trafficking in a controlled substance, namely cannabis. He was charged after police say they netted more than $500,000 worth of cannabis at 2 Glenorchy properties last month. The accused will reappear in court in October. Redevelopment of Macquarie Point has reached a milestone, with a major demolition now underway. But plans for the site still have several hurdles to clear, including the negotiations of a city deal for Hobart.
This is the cold store currently sitting on the prominent corner of the Macquarie Point site. Piece by piece, it's coming down as workers begin demolition.
The demolition is important because it opens up the site. This will be the gateway to the Macquarie Point site.
It is the formal entrance to Macquarie Point. It will be the gateway park, as well as allowing for interim uses in the meantime.
Behind this entrance would sit an Antarctic and Science precinct, a key part of Hobart's city deal, which is currently being negotiated with the federal government.
We do see this as being very important to the realisation of Macquarie Point. We see it as important strategically for Hobart and Tasmania, and that's why it'll be a priority project under the city deal.
But there's still no time frame on the development, with another hurdle, the planning scheme.
What we are talking about is submitting the planning amendments. The corporation continues to work with key stakeholders to get it right, to ensure that important developments such as the Antarctic and Science precinct can go ahead.
The cold store demolition is set to be completed at the end of October. Michael Breen, Southern Cross News.
2 cranes used for the Royal Hobart Hospital redevelopment have been given names, thanks to a talented young Hobart student. The huge pieces of equipment will now be known as Neville the Devil and Whopping Big Crane.
Decked out in a hard hat and a high-vis vest, it was all go for 10-year-old Liana Stubbs today.
Can you turn the cranes around for me, please? Thanks, Liana.
The Grade 4 student, the proud winner of the Name the Crane competition for the ginormous pieces of equipment used in the Royal Hobart Hospital redevelopment.
Happy and excited, and they were full of joy.
Liana used a play on words to come up with the names Neville the Devil and Whopping Big Crane.
For Neville the Devil, I was inspired by the book A Devilish Tale. And for Whopping Big Crane, I was inspired by the area called Whopping, which the cranes are built on.
Well, Liana has won an iPad for her grade 4 class, and of course she gets the honour of going past and of course seeing the names of the cranes.
Her work now prominently displayed on site in the middle of Hobart.
It's the staff at the Royal Hobart Hospital that got to sift through all of the competition entries and come up with their favourite.
The exercise and educational one too. Liana now knows lots of facts about cranes.
They can weigh up to 18 elephants.
The cranes are being used to build the 10-storey tower. Louise Hedger, Southern Cross News.
Tasmania's future medical professionals have tonight finished day 1 of Rural Week, an intensive training program run by the University of Tasmania. Students were shown how to take blood pressure, conduct CPR and take blood.
For some watching at home tonight, this would be enough to make you feel squeamish. But for these students, it's invaluable experience without the risk of things going wrong.
You get to see a lot of things from a different perspective than a patient would or somebody as a visitor. So that's really, it's a lot of responsibility, but it also feels really, I think it's an honour, it's a privilege, I think, personally.
This session, the first of many these doctors in training will go through for Rural Week.
It's probably the best thing of the year because you get out there, get to have some interactions with some patients, so yeah, it's been good.
Many saying it's a highlight of their degree, being put through their paces in clinical schools and also on farms across the state. It's a chance to get their hands dirty while learning new skills at the same time.
Yeah, it'll be pretty good getting in the gumboots on and getting in the mud, so that'll be fun, yeah.
The program is also aiming to inspire graduates to stay local and work in Tasmania's regional communities.
We're very keen to increase their interest in rural or regional practice eventually, no matter what specialty they go into. So it's the beginning of them seeing the sort of medicine that can be practiced either in Launceston, Burnie, places like that.
Jessica Moran, Southern Cross News.
Now a look at the day's business and finance news with thanks to Tasplan, your local super fund. The Australian share market has closed higher as investors took some comfort from North Korea refraining from any more provocative missile launches over the weekend. The ASX 200 index has risen by 40.5 points. A short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 80.41 US cents and 66.95 euro cents.
And Lauderdale coach Darren Winter says the club has already put Saturday's embarrassing loss to North Launceston out of its mind. But the side can't afford another complacent performance, with Launceston proving themselves a genuine flag threat.
Following their first win over rivals Clarence this year in week 1 of finals, Winter says his side was too busy singing its own praises and forgot to show up at UTAS Stadium on Saturday.
Going into the game, they probably forgot about the things that actually earned the pats on the back, and we come home on Saturday night with our tails between our legs because that's what we deserved. I think the whole club was embarrassed. That was probably the worst loss we've been involved in.
But Winter says Saturday night's bus trip back down south was where the self-pity stopped, as the focus shifted to this weekend's prelim against TSL giant slayers Launceston.
I actually thought they were the second best team in the competition, Launceston. So their midfield's really strong. They've got a good forward line. Their back line are really strong at the moment.
And while his players will have a tough battle on their hands, so will Winter, with many rating Sam Lonigan as the league's best coach this year.
He's a great young man, and I suppose the fact that he's got that AFL experience, and you've certainly got to have your wits about you.
If the Bombers manage to make it through to the big dance and claim the flag, it would be one of the biggest turnarounds in Tasmanian football history, following Saturday's 93-point loss.
It's given us a few shivers down the spine, so we don't want to think about that right at the moment.
Meantime, a deflated Jeremy Webley is left reflecting on a sour end to the year, with the Roos bowing out of the final series in straight sets after finishing the season second on the ladder.
I thought we got tired towards the end of the year. We had a massive pre-season. That probably brought us undone at the end of the day. We've probably proven to ourselves that we can beat any team in the competition. We just didn't get it right towards the back end of the year. That's probably the most disappointing thing.
He hasn't lost a fight in Australia since 2005, and Luke Action Jackson says he's raring to go for Saturday night's brawl at City Hall. With a world title in his sights, a win against Mexican Humberto de Santiago could see Jackson break into the top 5 world featherweight rankings.
Back to where it all began after months of intensive preparation in Sydney and the US.
We've done some hard rounds in America. I was sparring Alberto Machado. He's fighting for a world title now. It was amazing because I was handling myself very well, and there was days I was getting the better of their boy.
Breaking his tradition of not watching footage of opponents pre-fight, Jackson was recently sent some of challenger Humberto de Santiago, who arrives in Hobart later this week to try and snatch Jackson's WBO Oriental featherweight title.
I had a quick look, and he's awkward, man, and he's going to come from all angles, and I expect to get hit with big shots, and I expect to get hurt, but I expect to come through it all like I have done in the past and win.
And that could see Jackson jump into the top 5 in the world featherweight rankings, edging him closer to a shot at world champion Oscar Valdez.
As soon as you're in the top 5 in the world, you can get a call from anywhere. You just got to be ready and to show it's possible. To show you can come from nothing and fight for a world title, that's pretty special.
But first, he has to get through Saturday night's brawl at City Hall, with the Olympian standing by claims that a loss will spell the end of his professional career and world title dream.
I worked so hard that if I did lose, then why? If I can't beat this guy, honestly, if I can't beat this guy, there's no point.
South Hobart coach Ken Morton says his side has the confidence it can go all the way in the upcoming National Premier League final series after the side put through 7 unanswered goals during the weekend's League Cup final against Olympia.
We can't not play well, we have to be at it because they will score goals. Having said that, I think we've now got the midfield and forward line that will score goals, so I'm hoping we can get a result.
The 2017 Tasmanian NPL champions take on the Brisbane Strikers in the knockout series at Darcy Street this Sunday. Tasmania will host one round of the 2018 BMX Australia National Series. Around 200 riders from around the country are expected to compete on the Launceston BMX track at St Leonard's for the 2-day event next October.
It's huge news. It's really big for our club, for the Launceston BMX Club. It's big for Tassie as well. We will get some big names down here. It's really going to get BMX on the map.
I think it's fantastic for our city and for those who are interested in BMX riding, and maybe those that are not quite sure whether to go. Here's an opportunity to go and have a look at the best around the country.
The Launceston City Council has given BMX Australia $11,000 to ensure the track is ready for the 2018 event. The BMX Club hopes to get more kids on bikes ahead of the series. Hobart Ironman Cameron Worth has notched up his first win in the sport since turning professional over a year ago. Worth started strong in the Ironman Wales event and was in 8th place after the 4 kilometre swim leg, before taking the lead in the 180 kilometre bike leg and holding on in the full marathon to win it by 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Worth now heads to Hawaii for the Kona Ironman on October 14.
Good evening. Hope everyone enjoyed the weekend. The weather was pretty good. Didn't carry over into today though. Hobart 16, Launceston and Devonport 14, 15 the top for Burnie. 19 was the high around the state, recorded by Friendly Beaches and Campania as a band of showers crossed the state. However, the east missed out on most of that wet weather, and most of the falls were hardly significant. King and Flinders Island 17 degrees. It was 16 at St Helens, Grove and Fingal. Wynyard and Bushy Park 15 today. Low Head and Strawn 13 and 7 at Lyawini. Low and middle level cloud over Tasmania ahead of a cold front. Won't be too long before it's through. High cloud extends across the Bight with another more clearly defined front to the south of WA. Tasmania under the cover of that low level cloud today. Turbulence over the mountains created the wavy nature of the pattern as well. Tomorrow the front passes to the east, another though not far off, entering the Bight. A low pressure trough extends across central Australia. The westerly breezes at around 15 knots. They'll swing around to be more southerly over the east later in the day. Light and variable winds over the west and inland. And first time we don't have a warning or two, so straight to the forecast. A shower or two for Hobart, 13 the top, 12 for Adventure Bay with a shower, 10 the high for Tarraleah. Launceston, a possible shower, 15 the maximum, 14 the top for Devonport, possible afternoon shower for Bridport and 15 degrees. Maybe a shower too for Burnie, 14 the maximum, 13 for Strawn with a morning shower, same for Marrawar. And for the east, a possible afternoon shower, 16 for St Helens, 15 for Swansea and Whitemark. On Wednesday, showers eventually contracting to the west and far south by evening, snow to 500 metres. Possible showers on Thursday for all bar the east again, fresh and gusty west to south westerlies. And on Friday, showers over the north and west extending statewide during the morning. A morning shower in Perth tomorrow, a shower or two as well for Adelaide, some rain over Melbourne, partly cloudy conditions for Canberra and Sydney, and a sunny 30 in Brisbane. Partly cloudy at the moment, 15 in Hobart, 13 in Launceston, Devonport partly cloudy and 12 degrees. And after a nice day yesterday, Joe, looks like this changeable and inclement weather will continue for most of the week. Temperatures struggling to get into the mid-teens.
Oh, you're just full of good news for a Monday. Thank you very much for that, Murph. Well, that's all from us here for now. We'll, of course, see you throughout the evening with updates. Thanks so much for your company. Have a lovely night. Bye-bye.